Welcome to Whiteboard Wednesdays, episode 3. Today, we're going to be talking about a lesser known service that Evolve Digital does, and that is custom app development. January 9th, 2007 was a significant date because that was when powerful computing became accessible in your hand. Everywhere you went, you had access to information and data and systems and software. And today, in 2024, apps are still as important as they were back then. People still use personal devices like iPhones for their everyday computing needs. As a matter of fact, a recent study came out showing that about 70% of all web traffic is from the phone and not the desktop. And so let's address the elephant in the room. Apps. Are they easy to create or are they difficult? Here at Evolve Digital, we specialize in something called a progressive web app. Progressive web apps are an absolute game changer to the app industry. They became very popular back in the mid-2010s, I would say, and this technology has essentially taken a mobile website and ported it down to an application that you can download on your phone, as well as you can scale it all the way up to, if you're using a desktop, you can use the app on a desktop as well. That's why it's called a progressive web app. It's useful across multiple different platforms, and its experience is essentially the same across multiple different platforms, meaning you're not going to have a different experience on the app itself, whether or not you're using an Apple device or an Android device, or if you're using a desktop. The functionality will just work. And because it's using the internet, because it's using web technologies, everything is connected. And now in 2024, everything is more connected than ever. Back in 2007, data was at a premium. A lot of times you didn't want to be accessing your internet browser unless you were online on Wi-Fi. Nowadays, with 4G, 5G, you can access the internet practically anywhere for relatively cheap. And because of that, progressive web apps have really taken off. So this is Evolve's specialty. We work on progressive web apps, meaning we're using web technologies to build apps. There's a couple stages involved here. First off, you're going to contact us with an epic killer idea for an app. Once we've decided how the app is supposed to operate, look, and all the different aspects that go into planning an app, we will then start creating essentially a custom website that then can be boiled down to an app. It will look and behave like an app on a phone. Once that website is created and all of the data is created and all the functionality works on that site, we then essentially pull it into an app where we can containerize it. So once we have a website that works and operates perfectly fine, both on desktop and on mobile, then the user can access the site either via the URL in their web browser, or they can get it through the App Store. And because the app stores are still pretty powerful today, people still rely on getting their information and exchanging information by downloading apps. And because of that, you want your app to get published to an app store. And so what we do is we take this mobile site that works and operates just fine, and we bundle it into an actual app. With progressive web apps though, the one drawback is you pretty much always need Wi-Fi or some sort of internet connection in order to actually make the app load properly. But the benefits are, now using your progressive web app, you can also deploy custom notifications to your users. So that's progressive web apps in a nutshell, right? Sounds easy. It's not exactly easy, and you need to get an expert like ourselves on the job in order to get this done right the first time. Let me explain. So now let's talk about the scary problem. And it's not all that scary if you know what's going on. So let's say you're a business that wants to get your app to market. Well, the very first big scary problem is who? Who's going to get this app to market? Well, to talk about who, we need to talk about what. What are you trying to achieve with your app? Let's say you're like one of our customers here at Evolve Digital who has a ton of online resources that they use every day for their website. So let's say you utilize services every day in your business. Let's say you need to streamline through this app. You need to be pulling in data from various third-party providers because they're crucial to how your business operates. Let's say you have 3 service providers. Let's say service A is something like MailChimp, service B is something like Salesforce, and service C is something like, I don't know, Microsoft Office. And you're trying to route all of those through your app. At some point, your functionality needs to work with all 3 of these things. So the problem here is you need to find a who understands all of these technologies and how they operate. And so a quick piece of advice for those who are looking for an app developer, in order to vet them properly, and this is where a lot of business owners go wrong. Oftentimes, I get a lot of people coming to Evolve Digital's doorstep because they've gone with another app developer who promised them the world, and then when it came to actually implementing the technologies that were crucial to their business, that were absolutely crucial, and like without these technologies, the app would be a failure. The developer said, yes, I can do it, I can build it. But then when push came to shove, they didn't actually know how to integrate with all of these various services. So a key question to ask to figure out the right who, to figure out the right person for the job, is to ask them not just their qualifications and their experience. Because chances are, I mean, developers, yes, we work with all kinds of different applications, but it could be our first time working with a Salesforce CRM, but we can do it. So how do we know that your app developer can build you this app? The question to ask is, show me an example of how you'll make this app connect to Salesforce, and go into detail. Then find another developer friend, try to, if you got 2 different contracts or something, try to figure out a way that you can get someone else who's knowledgeable in that field and get them to check that out and say, yes, they know what they're talking about, or no, they don't know what they're talking about. So first thing you need to ask is, show me proof that you can make this happen, that you can connect these services to my app. Another easy way actually to make this a reality is to give them access, limited access maybe, via like an API or an API key, something that gives the developer essentially, it allows them to make changes to your Salesforce CRM. You could give them an authentication token and say, hey, here's a key. Now build me a website that when you click a button, it creates a user, Jeff Tester, or something like that. And if it creates that user successfully, then you know that this developer at least knows how to work with the API. And if they can't create that in less than a day, then you know you're working with the wrong type of developer. So I'm gonna break that step down for you of how to show proof. So you're gonna first go to the app developer in question who's bidding on this project, and you're gonna give them an API key or some sort of connectivity to your software. And you don't even need to know about this. You should be able to ask them, hey, what do you need in order to access my CRM? Once the developer has the API key, then you need to ask them for proof that they know how to work with the CRM and get the results that you need. So say, hey, build me a website where when I click a button, it adds a user. Give them some sort of demo that shows what this app will be doing every day. Give them a very simplistic demo and just be like, can you create a user? So get them to create or manipulate data on that service. Lastly, you want them to provide the demo. You want to have a link that you can go to where you can go click a button on that page, and then you can go view that service, and you can see if the request went through successfully or not. If the developer fails to do step 1, then I'm sorry, but you have the wrong who. It's the wrong person. And this is going to save you a lot of headache. I've had a lot of business owners who have gone down this road, who've gone through the whole process of, yes, here's how what your app is going to look like. And yes, this is how we think we're going to have this work. But until action meets what they have in mind, you don't know what you're going to get. So just make sure that you think of at least just one small case where the app is going to do a certain type of thing, and get them to at least prove that they can do that, because it's going to save you a lot of headache and a lot of money and a lot of time if you can at least ensure that the developer can do what they say they can do. So now we've addressed the one scary problem, is the who, making sure you get the right developer for the job. Now we're going to address the second problem, which is the who. Again, what developer are you working with is crucial to knowing if your app is going to be a success. So in this scenario, we're going to now be talking not about if they have the right qualifications. Maybe they do provide you a demo with an app that works. But here's the next scary problem, is are they truly building this app using good practices? Are they building this app using the right technologies? And are they building this app ethically? Let's talk about that. So if you remember back to episode 1 of this Whiteboard Wednesday series, we talked about custom websites and the difference between using pre-built themes and plugins and all this technology tools that are one size fits all, or if you have pre-built tools that are specifically addressed for your specific needs. Two completely opposing ideologies. So you want to make sure this person's using the right technology to build your app. And unfortunately, using big tools and big themes isn't a great fit usually for apps, because it's going to make them slow, it's going to make them break over time for pretty much all the same reasons as why you wouldn't build a website using pre-built themes and plugins. See episode 1, I'll go more into detail about that there. But the same principle applies here. So you want to be asking them some simple questions. First, what will you use? Tell me, what kind of technology stack are you using? You, again, as a business owner, probably don't even know, or this will all be jargon to you, but pass that on to someone who is knowledgeable and ask them, are they just pulling stuff out of the box, or is this something that is truly useful? Secondly, you're going to want them to provide you a demo or some sort of use case of using the what in reality. So if they say, well, we use the, I don't know, insert technology here. Okay, can you provide some examples of an app that you've built using this technology? So that's your second thing. So next thing you want to ask is, can you provide an example of what you use? Can you give us a real life demo using what you said you would use in reality? And this is where you're going to see developers who know what they're doing and they'll actually use what they say they're going to use and they build you something, and developers who say, yeah, we're going to use all these things, and then they can't actually deliver. And so that's a huge problem here in the app development industry. And the biggest problem is actually not so much that they don't know what they're doing, but that they're typically can be very unethical about how they go about business. And that's the third who. Are you working with someone who's ethical, or are you working with someone who's telling you one thing and then doing another thing? So typically, a lot of business owners love to do business within the country that they reside in for obvious reasons. So for example, if I'm a Canadian company, I want to hire a Canadian app developer who understands some geopolitical things about maybe what I'm offering, or understands just who I am as a brand, that kind of stuff. But the problem is, oftentimes you don't, as a business owner, you won't understand the technology and the process of building an app. You just know that if I give enough money to this company, they will give me something. And so they might give you a whole bunch of designs and then a nothing burger when it comes to functionality of the app. That's one scary thing to talk about, but that's what we addressed in the first section. Now we're going to be talking about unethical things, and that is this third section. I've heard this from a couple of people, a couple of business owners who went for the fast and cheap option of building an app with a Canadian company, and this is exactly what they did. And it's kind of funny because they almost bold-faced lie to you, where they're like, yep, we're going to build you an app, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it. And then what ends up happening is they're actually outsourcing everything. They're not doing a lick of work. They're just sending it all overseas, getting it done at a very cheap rate, and then essentially just pulling profit margins from the top. The problem is the guys overseas don't know what's going on, or they might not even be able to provide the examples as we went over in step 1 and 2. And so you end up with people, again, using cookie cutter themes, plugins, tools and like a basic understanding of how computers work, and trying to smush an app together at as fast and as cheaply as possible. Because at the end of the day, in the outsourcing game especially, all they're worried about is their profit margin. They're worried about making sure that they ram this app through the door as quick as possible and with as little effort as possible. And because it's app development, it's big and scary, and it's people throw tons of thousands of dollars at this. Oftentimes, a lot of business owners get hurt because they throw a lot of money at this app development thinking, hey, I'm going to get a good app in return, when all it is just being a process that now is rushed, that is met by people who aren't experts in their field, and usually has a lot of time delays inherently, because if you're outsourcing everything, there's even just a natural time delay in terms of communication with the developers there. So huge issue, and especially if the company's not being upfront and honest with you. If they're saying, yeah, we're doing everything here in Canada, but they're actually outsourcing it to you, I mean, that's a big red flag. They should at least be upfront and honest. So a question you should ask every app developer is, are you outsourcing your work or not? So like I said before, there's nothing wrong with outsourcing, because sometimes it brings the cost down to you as the customer, and you get an app that works and is functional for a fraction of the cost of paying a developer here in Canada thousands of more dollars. But the issue here is you will lack through this process quality, you'll lack control, you could lack expertise. So ask them if they're outsourcing. If they come up front and honest and say, yes, we're outsourcing to bring the costs down to you as the client, there's nothing wrong with outsourcing. And the next thing you need to do then is ask them if they have any control over this outsourcing process, or if it's just one big money grab. Typically, a lot of times, freelance outsource type of work, people are trying to do things as quickly as possible for as cheaply as possible and with little experience as possible. So the question you ask is, are you outsourcing? And if they say yes, we immediately need to look at a couple factors. And if they say no, but then you find out they are outsourcing, immediately shut down. Like, that's not great. That means that they definitely, I can tell you right now that means that the quality is taking a hit. But if they do upfront say, yes, we are outsourcing the work, then you need to look at some key factors. So this Canadian company, they're effectively just a communicator between you, the client, and the developer who's actually building your app. And so they're going to take a 60% cut of every hour for themselves, which is kind of ridiculous because all they are is just a middleman. And as we know, more middle management means more costs. So this middleman takes 60%. Now the remaining 40%, or $40 in this case, goes to a developer in a developing country. Now, these countries, typically $40 an hour is a very respectable wage. And so they're making real good bank. But because the 60% has been taken off, they're left with only 40%. Now, this developer, their whole goal is to get this done as fast as possible. Because if they can get this app done in half the time, then what ends up happening is there's more profits to go around for not only the Canadian company, but themselves, and no savings to get reflected back to you. So what do I mean by that? Let's say this app is going to take 10 hours to build. That means you, the business owner, were quoted $1,000 to build this app. But here's the thing, both these companies are looking to increase their hourly wage behind the scenes. They've quoted you 10 hours, but if they get it done in 5 hours, they'll still say to you, oh, it took 10 hours to build this app, and then they take all the profits home for themselves. There's an incentive to rush the process, both on the developer and, of course, the Canadian business owner. And what ends up happening is they'll start stacking multiple projects. So they'll have one project on the go here, another project on the go here, and your project in the middle. And so it'll take 10 hours, they say, but they can actually stuff maybe 3 projects in that time frame. So they're going to try use pre-built tools, pre-built themes and plugins, pre-built everything to try get the app through as quickly as possible and push it through, which means there's going to be, because of this quickness, there's going to be no quality control, and it's going to lead to inherent deficiencies in your app. So you need to make sure that if a company does use outsourcing, that they're doing it right, and that they're logging the correct amount of hours, and they're reflecting only those correct amount of hours back to you as the client. Because if they just quote you a one-time fee and they're outsourcing the project, I guarantee you their main incentive is to get this done and dusted as fast as possible. And trust me, when you're building an app and you're going to maybe release it to thousands of potential users and clients, showcasing your brand, if that app fails, it's sure, it's partly your fault, but it was mainly the fault of the developer. And so you just need to make sure that when you are getting these apps developed, that they're developed correctly. And so, shameless plug, obviously here at Evolve Digital, we keep all of our app development in-house, in Canada, no outsourcing required, and we can build anything you want. Put us to the test, make us do a demo. We'll show you how we can connect your systems into one app and make your dream a reality.